News is learning the government has commenced the distribution of food items to public senior high schools. This was after days of shortage, which forced Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools, CHAS, warning the students and parents may soon be compelled to take up the cost of feeding if government fails to provide services to the suppliers. However, there is hope for the school children now, as the Ministry of Education, as we understand, has started the distribution of the food items. First, let's check out the situation up north. Rafiq Salam joins us from the Upper West region. Rafiq, just a couple of minutes ago, I confirmed from the CHAS executives that obviously the distribution has started. What can you report from where you are?
Also report to you that in the Upper West region, precisely at some schools that I visited, West Senior High, Tenga School to be precise, West Senior High School to be precise, we've not gotten the food items available. Time is surely running out for the buffer stock company, and then the schools are saying that they are out of stock. They are still, the authorities told me that they are still hoping that now that the day is over, they'll still have the food for them. But for now, there isn't any distribution of food to the various schools in that port.
So that's contradictory, because the reports we're learning of is that the various bases for or entry points for the distribution have received the food items. So could it be possibly due to some bureaucracies, which means that the food may delay a few more days?
They have been told that they will get the food by the close of today. As we speak now, I said about a handful of schools that I have visited, they are yet to receive there's a scintilla of any food item into their food. And so for now, there will not be any distribution there. Authorities at the schools in that post are saying that they are yet to hear about the food now. So I have visited a handful of schools and they are telling me that they are yet to receive the food items.
But tell us about the mood on campus, the various schools that you visited. What were some of the reactions, particularly from the students who, we understand, have had to find their own way of feeding?
The schools in the Upper West region here are quite, because of the celebration of the Eid al-Adha. Most of the students were asked to go for that prayer or for that celebration, and then majority of them have not returned. And so we are expecting the arrival of these students back on campus and maybe later in the evening. And so the schools are very quiet now, and that is even very good for the students, because they were saying that the authorities were telling me that the students have stayed in the campus. That clearly means that they will have even run out of stock. But for now, at least somehow it's a good omen for them. So they are still counting on their luck and hoping that by the close of the day, they'll have this food from the Ministry of Food and the Ministry of Education.
And for those who may not get a clear picture, just paint that mental picture for us of how dire the situation is in the Upper West region.
Upper West region, we used to, or the northern sector of the country, we used to have the northern scholarship where, the fees of students were taken care of by the government. But since the advent of this issue of the school feeding program came around, this free HHS came around, it has been lumped with that of the free HHS. And so this time we don't need to talk about the northern scholarship or the northern feeding grants again. And so if they are going, if these food items are not available, clearly means that at least the students will not be happy, because students will have to fend for themselves, or they have to cook for themselves. And that's exactly what's going to happen. And so the mood in the various campuses of the various schools, the students are not really happy about what is happening. And even for fear that they may come to school and will not have these particular commodities. That's why some of the students are staying away after the Salah festivities.
Interesting. I'm grateful, Rafiq, for the very latest update. But earlier today as well, Magnus Innocent Dare, chairperson of CHAS in the Upper West region, told me that the distribution of the food items had started. He, however, called for some reforms in government's policy on feeding.
Yeah, I got a call this morning from our regional buffer stock, and he confirmed that some food have been dispatched. Already rice and sugar have been dispatched, and then the other items will be dispatched as from tomorrow. That one I can confirm that I got a call that these items have been dispatched.
But the question is how many?
All the schools are, from what he told me, all the schools are involved. It is dispatched to, is supposed to cover all the schools. In my region, I know all the schools, and it's the same, I think, across the whole country. As to the quantities, I cannot tell, but he told me it covered all schools. Mode of distribution, we are still trying to arrange that with him. They said it will be brought to a central depot in Wa, but I'm trying to, I'm still discussing with him the possibility of him decentralizing the locations so that it'll be easier for the schools to pick it from there. Before now, previously the suppliers used to bring the food to the schools, but then of late, what they do is they come and leave it at a central pool, at a central depot in Wa, which is the regional capital, and all schools have to go to Wa and pick it from there. It was a little bit difficult, given all the challenges, transport, money, and that kind of thing. It made it a little bit difficult. But if they decentralize it, it'll be easier for us to pick the food items.
Okay,
Met with the minister, we agreed that they should create more distribution centers in the regions so that, which will be nearer to the schools, so that the schools can pick them if they cannot bring them directly to the schools. But if they create distribution centers, which are near for the schools to pick it from the distribution centers.
So
I can talk like for the Upper West region. For the Upper West, for instance, we have the main depot, which is in Wa, which is the regional capital. If they can create another another center or depot, for instance, in Lora, then all the schools from Nadoli, Nandom, right up to Uro, Drapa, even maybe will be able to come. Then another depot in Tumu. Then all the schools in the Sisala East, Sisala West can pick from that place. If they can create another depot in Drapa, then it makes it even much better. So if create, for instance, in the Upper West, 3 extra depots, it will make it easier for the schools to pick up the food items from there. Well, the issue of the strike, as of now, well, like it's happening in many of the schools, management has put itself in readiness. So if, for instance, I have to drive to the depot to collect it myself, I will do so because the students also need to feed.
So
the past few days, like in most of the schools, management has been able to organize itself to look after the students with the help of the youth employment personnel and some volunteers. We've been able to keep the schools running up to this time.
Well, let's take you to the central region now, where John News is learning that some heads of senior high schools there are complaining of the quantities of foodstuff they received. Let's speak to, of course, my colleague Richard Kojanyako has been checking out some of the institutions in terms of the bags of rice and some other food items that schools are taking delivery of now. Richard, just bring us up to speed with what's happening in the central region. Why are the heads of the institutions complaining about the quality or perhaps the quantity of the foods?
Pleasant. The arrangement has been that the food staff is delivered to the various schools. Now they even deliver it to a depot, and so the heads of schools have to make the arrangement and then pick them up. But they now have to sign. So if they are supposed to sign for 15 bags of rice, beans, or maize, then they sign for 15 and they are given 10. And they do not understand why. In fact, the last time a head told me that he complained and he rejected it, he had to follow them, go and beg them before they returned that food item. And it's been so, and the heads are unable to talk about it. And so it's been the order of the day. And it is reducing the quality and the quantity of the food served at the dining hall in the various senior high schools across the country. My investigations indicate that it is across the country. It is widespread and not in the central region alone. It is not only about the quantity, but it is about the weight of the rice, the maize, the beans, and all of that. So if they are supposed to even supply about 80 kilograms of rice, for instance, then they supply about 50 kilograms of rice.
But even the point is, Richard, are we even getting a sense of the approach towards the distribution itself and what it is that the standard should be? What normally happens when the food is released? Then how do the heads get delivery of them? Run us through that process first of all.
So the various schools are allotted bags of rice, bags of maize, bags of sugar, and all of that. So if a school is supposed to be allotted 15 bags of sugar, they go and sign for 15, but actually they give them 10 bags of sugar. So that has been the system, the arrangement. So normally they are supposed to get 15, but now they are giving 10. Now, with respect to the weight of the food, of the bags of the maize, rice, sugar, even if they are supposed to be given 80 kilograms worth of rice, they are given 50 kilograms worth of rice. They reduce the weight and then they send it to the schools. Now the schools do not have any option because they can't complain about it. And when they complain, then victimization sets in, and so they have to use it like that. So it has reduced the quantity of the food that is served the various schools and the quality as well. So in some of the senior high schools, my investigation proved that it is the grade A schools where the parents associations are a bit stronger. They have had to contribute to shore up the feeding grants of the various schools so that the food quality and the quantity would improve in that school. So we have an instance at Wesley Girls where I have been interacting with some of the parents. They tell me that they had to pay 500, and when after the payment of the 500 Ghana cedis to support the feeding grant, the children reported back to them that, well, the quantity and the quality of the food that is served at the dining hall has improved tremendously. And so that is what is currently happening.
Richard, if a school like Wesley Girls is complaining about the quality of food, I'm just wondering what then will happen to, and with all due respect to any other school involved in the central region, what kind of quality in terms of food that some of these students will be taking?
So it is breeding. I mean, you are right. So it is breeding some kind of situation. The heads tell me that there is an increasing cases of thefts of food by some students. So they break into the chop box of their colleagues and then they steal. So these are the cases now that have been happening. That they break in some cases, they even take the chop box and then they take out the food items, and then that is it. But parents have had to also buy more provisions because these days children are eating from their chop boxes more than they used to do in those days. And so that is the situation the heads of schools and the school authorities are faced with.
I'm sure that you've been engaging some officials of the Ghana Education Service. What more are we learning from them?
Well, so they are lip tight. They are not talking, just as the heads of schools have been told not to do. They are not talking about any of these situations because the least interaction you have with any media person or anything, then your job may be on the line. That is what they have been telling me.